In the previous chapter, Zhuo Fan stunned everyone by revealing his ultimate ace, his 7-year-old son, Gu Santong. While Gu Santong stood proud, the crowd was left speechless, struggling to believe what they just witnessed. Let's begin the chapter. Sect Leader. Xuan's voice dripped with scorn. Humph! All I've heard are tales, grand stories of the West's most talented disciple, the hero of the Double Dragon Gathering. And what do we find? You cowering behind a child. Truly you've opened my eyes to your worthlessness. The mystical heaven sect erupted in jeers, their laughter echoing across the battlefield, mocking Zhuo Fan with every breath. A babe in arms. That's what the demon-scheming sect had resorted to in their hour of crisis. These were veteran cultivators, steeped in the dark arts, yes, but still bearing a semblance of status, of respect. Even they, demonic as they were, wouldn't sink so low as to use a child as a shield against their fate. It was utterly, unbelievably disgraceful. Blaming stares, sharp and accusing, pierced Zhuo Fan from all sides of the demon-scheming sect ranks. This entire war, a colossal misunderstanding, leading us to our doom. We could almost forgive you for dragging us to our deaths. But couldn't you at least let us face it with some dignity? What have we done to deserve this utter humiliation? Venerable Qi sighed, the sound heavy with disappointment. Steward Zhuo, if you're truly at your wit's end, a valiant death in battle would be far preferable to placing our lives in the hands of a mere child. Or are you perhaps taking it easy on our enemies? Fiend Yang's voice was laced with accusation. Zhuo Fan, I know your entire clan is a breeding ground for unusual individuals. We see it in this child, ethereal, stage at such a tender age. But he's still just a child. He's never known war. Better to let him escape, to carry our memory, to seek vengeance. Why must you throw him into the fray, shatter our last hopes, and make a complete fool of yourself and us all? Hey! A small voice, sharp with indignation, cut through the heavy atmosphere. Gu Santong's nose wrinkled in fury. Did you just say something, chubby? Yours truly can dish it out. Are you calling me weak? Fiend Yang sighed again, a weary sound, and reached out, patting Gu Santong's head with a heavy hand. See that, little guy? Look how much he reminds you of yourself, all fire and fury. But strength isn't just about shouting, it's about knowing your limits. Your ethereal stage, yes, but those are peak ethereal stage veterans out there. Have you no heart, Zhuo Fan? Sending your own child? Gu Santong's small fists clenched, rage bubbling up. Zhuo Fan merely shook his head, a silent warning. Fatty Yang, you've asked for it now. Young Sanzi is not going to be gentle. Suddenly, a small hand shot out, grabbing Fiend Yang's arm, startling him. What is it, little guy? He asked, bewildered. I hate it when people touch my head. Gu Santong's teeth gritted. But just then, a soft hand, fair and gentle, touched his own. A delicate voice, like wind chimes, spoke. Are you young Sanzi? I've heard of you. Startled, young Sanzi's angry gaze lifted, locking onto the beautiful woman before him. His grip on Fiend Yang's arm loosened. He was stunned, speechless. Then young Sanzi, Chu Qingcheng leaned closer, her smile radiant, and gently touched his cheek. Our safety rests in your hands. Her smile, bright and warm, completely disarmed the child. He could only nod, reflexively, captivated. Zhuo Fan sighed, a quiet sound of amusement. No one, not even this little terror, can resist Qingcheng's beauty. Clearing his throat, Zhuo Fan pointed towards Chu Qingcheng. Young Sanzi, this is my lady. She'll be your mother from now on. Mom! Gu Santong's head snapped back to Chu Qingcheng, eyes wide. Then a grin spread across his face. Great! I like her! Chu Qingcheng blushed, a delicate pink tinting. her cheeks, and rolled her eyes at Zhuo Fan, a silent reprimand. Then, turning her attention to the approaching enemy, the imposing heavenly cycle elders, she asked with feigned concern, "Young Sanzi, can you really beat them? Won't it be too hard?" "Humph, what's so great about a bunch of small fries?" Gu Santong scoffed, puffing out his chest. Then, with a determined strut, he marched forward a few steps. "Dad! Mom!" he announced, his voice ringing with childish confidence. "In half an hour, I'll turn them into mincemeat." Chu Ching-chung glanced at him, then back at Zhuo Fan, her cheeks still flushed. "Ha ha ha!" Zhuo Fan chuckled, a warm, genuine sound. "This kid is just like his dad, called you Mom, without a second thought." Chu Ching-chung glared playfully at him, but a warm, fuzzy feeling bloomed in her chest. The others watched this bizarre scene in stunned silence. What kind of parents send their child to face death? Even if he's not really related. Han Qianying frowned, her brow furrowed with worry. "Ching Cheng, how can you agree with Zhuo Fan, letting a child—" "Senior sister," Chu Ching-chung interrupted gently. "He's no ordinary child. In Tianyu, he's never lost a single fight. They call him the invincible scamp for a reason." "Yeah," Zhuo Fan chimed in, a hint of pride in his voice. "Even I couldn't. Beat this kid!" He sighed dramatically, then smiled at Chu Ching-chung. "Ching-cheng, you certainly seem to know young Sanzi quite well." Chu Ching-chung smiled back, a knowing glint in her eyes. "Of course. I may have only just arrived at the mystical heaven sect, but my sisters from the Drifting Flowers edifices have kept me well informed. Jade slips detailing everything you've been up to in Tianyu, remember? So the fact you have this godlike godson, well, I was already aware. What I am curious about, though, just what did you use to trick this incredible force into becoming your son?" Zhuo Fan grinned, a mischievous spark in his eyes. "The same way I charmed the most gorgeous woman to become my wife." Chu Ching-cheng rolled her eyes again, but a small smile played on her lips. "Since when did you become such a smooth talker?" she murmured, a hint of fondness in her voice. While the two engaged in a rare moment of light-hearted banter, Gu Santong, a child on a serious mission, was readying himself. This monstrous scamp, wearing the guise of an innocent child, was finally unleashed upon the battlefield. Everyone stared, a mix of apprehension and disbelief in their eyes. They knew Zhuo Fan was ruthless, a bastard in many ways, but surely not without all morals? To send a child, even an adopted one, onto such a brutal battlefield, and to call him a glorified ace at that, it felt revolting. Looking at that sweet, innocent face, those chubby little hands, a wave of pity washed over them. That's no ace, just a poor, misguided small fry. Sect leader. Xuan's mockery echoed again, sharper this time. Is this the demon scheming? Sect's trump card? Pathetic. With both parents dead, this child will be left to wander the cruel cultivation world alone? Ha ha ha. A shame truly, but sentimentality won't sway us. We may be righteous cultivators, but we are no saints. Humph. Yeah, Zhuan Xiaoyu snarled, his face twisted with malice. This demon brat is already in the ethereal stage at such a young age. Best to cull him now, before he grows into a real threat. The heavenly cycle. Elders nodded in grim agreement. One elder even shouted, his voice booming, "Kid, do you truly intend to interfere on behalf of demonic cultivators? Don't expect us to hold back just because you're young?" "Cut the crap," Gu Santong retorted, sticking out his tongue. "I came here to stomp you." And with that, he charged forward. The demon-scheming sect watched, stunned, then a murmur of praise rippled through their ranks. How brave, like father, like son, stubborn to the core. The mystical heaven sect clenched their fists, their resolve hardening. This was a demon in the making. Arrogant and treating everyone with contempt, he had to be eliminated. The elder smirked, a cruel twist of his lips. Very well, then. Since you've been corrupted by the demonic path even in your youth, the four of us will have to cleanse your soul and release you from your mortal coil. The four elders moved in unison, their hands weaving complex signs. With a deafening, draconic roar, a spectral dragon, formed of earth energy, lunged towards Gu Santong. Everyone gasped, a collective wave of fear washing over the demon scheming sect. They watched, hearts pounding, worried for the seemingly helpless child. Their eyes darted to Zhuo Fan. "Aren't you going to save your own son?" Zhuo Fan simply stood there, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "Hypocrites!" Gu Santong's voice, surprisingly loud, cut through the tension. "Get in here and fight! Stop with your meaningless prattle! You're nothing but a bunch of cowardly hypocrites hiding behind numbers!" Seeing the earth dragon bearing down on him, Gu Santong just scoffed, and with a casual flick of his wrist, he dismissed it. Bam! A deafening explosion ripped through the air. The spectral dragon, with a pained wail that echoed through the valley, was sent hurtling backwards, back towards the spinning circle of elders who had summoned it. No one, not even the elders themselves, could react in time. Gu Santong wasn't finished. He stomped his small foot on the ground, and in an instant, he was right in front of their spinning formation. His small, seemingly harmless fist shot out, smashing down towards them with unbelievable force. Boom! Another earth-shattering explosion. The yellow dragon, constantly circling their formation, buckled under the impact, its body caving inwards, shrieking in agony. Its form shattered, dissolving into motes of golden light before vanishing completely. As the dragon dissipated, the full force of Gu Santong's strike slammed into the circle itself. The four elders, finally realizing the true danger, threw up their arms to block. Bam! The four-peak ethereal stage experts were sent flying back hundreds of meters, crashing to the ground. They were forced to open their eyes wide, the arrogance wiped clean from their faces, replaced by stark disbelief. They no longer had the luxury of arrogance. Staring at Gu Santong, shock was etched onto their aged features. What in hell are you?" one stammered, his voice trembling. "Oh, so you weren't blind?" Gu Santong taunted, his voice dripping with childish sarcasm. "I thought you were all cripples, so I was holding back. Damn fakers ruining my sympathy. Now I see there's no need to anymore." Gu Santong clenched his tiny fist, a chillingly confident grin spreading across his face. The audience was still reeling, utterly speechless, after witnessing a 7-year-old child effortlessly overpower 4 seasoned experts. No wonder Steward Zhuo called him his ace. He was actually serious. But what in the world? One freak after another. Looking from the monstrous child to the unfathomable Zhuo Fan, they sighed, utterly lost for words. How are we supposed to make a living in a world filled with such monsters?